It's being live streamed.
You're looking very ghostly, Jim.
I am in the I am in Aldi's car park in Hythe because I've got a 6:30 Hythe Town Council meeting. I'm only with you for the first half hour, unfortunately.
Good evening. Welcome to the meeting of the Folkestone and Hythe District and Parish Council's Joint Committee. Please note this meeting is being streamed live to the internet. Please could all members ensure their microphone is set to mute unless they are speaking to reduce any background noise. So we'll move to the first item, which is the appointment of chair. For the purpose of this meeting, members must appoint a district councillor to chair the meeting. Can I have any nominations, please?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Prater, please.
Seconded. Happy to second.
Thank you very much. Can I just have a show of hands from all in favour? Thank you. Councillor Prater, you've been elected chair.
Thank you for that outstanding vote of confidence and for Mike for picking heads. Welcome. I've had a request that we alter the order of this agenda, if it's okay, in order to bring the LGR update to the first substantive item. But if we could quickly go through items 2, 3, and 4, that would be ideal. So apologies for absence. Do we have any?
Yes, we've had apologies from Councillors Beales, Burgess, and Thomas.
Terrific. Thank you. They're noted. Any declaration? Are there any items 3? Any declarations of interest on any item on this agenda? Beyond that, LGR will affect all of us in one way or another. I'm not seeing any declarations there, so I'll take that as silence for now. If you see one come up, please let us know during the meeting. Otherwise, we'll go to item 4, the minutes of the meeting of the 11th of September. As I have to give my apologies for that meeting, I'm going to ask somebody who was there whether they're happy to accept those as an accurate record.
We do accept.
That's Peter moving that.
Yeah.
There was another yes there. All those in favour, please show. Yeah. I can put that down as unanimous, but you can have none call. In that case, we'll move to item 7, the LGR update. I don't know if you've heard anything about this at all, Jim, but there's apparently this thing on, and I wonder if you could give some guidance to the meeting about where we're to.
Certainly, yeah. Yeah, we can. Thank you.
Perfect. If you just talk me through when you want the next slide, Jim.
Yeah, we'll do so. Welcome everyone. This is, yet another update on local government reorganisation, but we do have something substantive to update you on. So if we could move to the next slide, please, Alex. Thank you. Yeah, so we all know we've all been on this journey from the devolution white paper, in terms of Kent and Medway not agreed to be part of the devolution priority programme, so we were in the slow track rather than the fast track. We jointly the Kent councils, all 14 of us. So that's the 12 districts and the two unitaries submitted a joint interim plan. This was very favourably received, and then we appointed KPMG to act as our strategic partner and effectively do the number crunch that all of the business cases would be based on, we had the options came to council last night, and after quite a detailed debate, which there were voices in favour of all 5 options, 3A was voted as the quite overwhelmingly as the majority view, and Cabinet then sat immediately after the council meeting and endorsed the view of FHDC Council. So now we will, on the 28th of November, we now have to submit our full business case for 3A, i.e. why we in Folkestone and Hythe feel that 3A is the best option for us. Next slide, please, Alex. So just to remind you, here are all of the proposals. These were the original proposals, and you'll recall from everything else that I've said that the two proposals that KPMG developed on our behalf was 3A and 4B, but then we had other proposals introduced, notably 1A from KCC, which is a single unitary, 4D, which it was the Medway proposal, which was a 4 unitary solution, and then 5A, which was proposed by Dartford and Gravesham, and that's a 5 unitary solution. So just so we're clear, the money that we got from the government to do this has been spent developing 3A and 4B. KCC have paid for their own development, and Medway and Dartford and Gravesham have both paid KPMG extra money to number crunch for those two options. So there they all are in their beauty. So next slide, please, Alex. So that's more or less what I've said. So the 5 business cases, these were the 5 that were being discussed and promoted by the various councils, various supporters, and there they are in a slightly larger view. There's lots of discussion about what the government meant by their 500,000 threshold. What's transpired from Surrey recently, because they're ahead of us, is that the government is clearly in favour of larger unitaries rather than smaller unitaries. In Surrey, you may recall that so Surrey had 11 district councils and a single unitary as the county authority. The county and 2 of the districts voted for a 2 unitary, and 9 districts voted for a 3 unitary solution, and the government went with 2. So we're taking that as that more or less kind of crosses off 5A, because the size of the individual unitaries is pretty small. Next slide, please, Alex. So this is the government guidance that was contained within the white paper, and this is what all of the business cases have to comply with. Single tier of local government. So KCC disappears effectively, as does all of the district councils and Medway, and then we reform as a single tier of local government in the unitaries. Achieve efficiencies, improve capacity to withstand financial shocks. That would tend to indicate that finance is a very, very strong feature in the way that the government will make their decision. High quality and sustainable public services. I think all business cases will claim that. Meeting local needs and informed by local views. Again, I'll talk a little bit about that further on, but I would suggest that all of the promoters will claim that. And must support devolution arrangements. Now, this is an important one, because 1A, the one that's proposed by KCC, does not support devolution. the idea of devolution is that we would have a mayor of Kent, and that mayor would be supported by the 3 or 4 or indeed 5 unitaries. So the idea is for a wafer-thin strategic mayoral authority and mayor, obviously, and then that would be supported by the 3, 4, or 5 leaders of the unitaries. With the KCC model, you would have a leader of KCC and a mayor. Well, one of them would end up being redundant, so it doesn't support devolution, and it will be interesting to see what the government do with it, whether they kick it out as non-qualifying or whether they let it move forward through the process. To enable stronger community engagement and neighbourhood empowerment. Again, I think all of the business cases will claim that. Whether it's true or not, we'll see. Thank you, Alex. Next slide, please. So that's a load of numbers, and in terms of when I'm gone, I would suggest that you ask Alan more of the questions about this. But what you can see is that 1A is the cheapest thing to do, but it doesn't meet the government's ambition. 3A is the next. The interesting thing is the payback period on the end, and you can see that 5A has a 14-year to never payback period. So next slide, please, Alex. Number of councillors. This is important because the government felt right from the start that the number of councillors was important, and they set a limit of 100 as the upper limit for the individual chamber. This is an area where the 1A again doesn't comply because they have way in excess of 100 councillors. Also, the proportion of population per councillor is very, very high with 1A. The argument around 4 or indeed a 5 unitary solution is that proportion that with the smaller unitaries, you are able to have a smaller population being represented by an individual councillor, and I completely agree on that. I personally, my view is that this process will erode local democracy, but we've got to get on with it. We've been given a job by the government, and we've got to deliver it. So that's a really interesting slide. I'd say take a close look at that, because there's a lot of interesting conclusions you can draw from that one around local democracy and how able councillors will be able to undertake casework, etc. It's also an interesting point that many people have made to me, is that this is the end of the independent councillor, where we're talking about much larger geographical areas. So typically a KCC division, that is much more difficult for an independent councillor to fight an election in. If you're just talking about a ward, then an individual, his wife and 2 children, can get round a leaflet most of it. You don't have a chance of doing that in terms of a division. So it could be, I don't know, but it would make it very, very difficult for independent councillors. Next slide, please, Alex. What we've been doing is you know quite a bit about this. We've been we've been doing a lot of briefings in terms of staff and our own members. We've got a dedicated LGR page on the council website. We've done a county-wide short pulse survey, which was undertaken to test awareness of LGR. The results were pretty poor. So not that many people are still aware of it. Printed posters, bloody blah. Myself and Councillor McConville did a kind of road show, which I know I've inflicted on some of you on LGR, and we're quite pleased. We got to quite a few. We didn't get to all of the parishes, but we got to quite a few. Lydd, Lyminge, Sellinge, St Mary's Bay, Dymchurch, Hythe, Folkestone. So we got around, and we were doing it as we went. The survey establishing what was important for the residents as part of LGR for value for money. A local works head was launched, closing on the 6th of October, and it's not statistically reliable apparently, because the sampling wasn't that big, but it gives a kind of indication. Next slide, please, Alex. So communication and what we've been doing on it. We've been doing quite a bit of stuff, and it's. I'm going to just turn my phone the other way so I can read it, just in case I contradict it. What we've found in terms of the analysis is that service quality is the most important thing. Efficiency and value is the second, and problems being resolved, how quickly problems can be resolved. The lowest important issues were ward size. Now, every politician, every local politician, they're really concerned about ward sizes, but the public aren't that concerned about it. They're not that concerned about how difficult it is to attend meetings, and they're not that concerned about the number of councillors. Whereas those three issues are really, really high on local politicians' agendas. The three opportunities that they set for LGR is service standards and accessibility, economies of scale, and resident focused governance. The lowest is addressing current inefficiencies, which is amazing, really. People prefer the status quo and geographical coherence, which you can very much understand. People are concerned about it being impersonal, etc. Stuff around the implementation. You can read the slide. You know what's on there. Next slide, please, Alex. This is all about the preferred option. So we went for 3A. There are a number of reasons for it, and you can see that very helpfully the officers have put where everyone is. With regard to that, Kent County Council will obviously go for 1A. Dartford and Gravesham are likely to go for 5A, the ones that they produce. Ourselves, Maidstone, Tonbridge and Malin, Sevenoaks and Tunbridge Wells have all gone for 3A. We think that Ashford is going to go for 4B. that's not certain at all. Not certain at all. We think that Thanet is going to go for 4B. We think that Medway will go for 4D, and it's possible that Dover will go for 4D, but they might go for 4B. Canterbury, we think, will go for 4D. So every business case is going to be supported, but 3A will have the most support. Next slide, please. Alex, thank you. So there's our timeline, and that will be so we'll get all of our bits together and we'll send it off to the Secretary of State. Now, this is a really important thing, that the Secretary of State will then have a very interesting Christmas. reading umpteen business cases and will consult in the new year. So we think it's going to be, and I doubt if they'll start before Christmas, but so that consultation, it won't be a vote. It will just, they'll be on a website somewhere, and you'll be asked to make comments on it. So they'll take all of those comments on board, and then they'll think about it a bit more, and then they will they'll come forward with their decision. Now, we think that sorry, just to explain this story, we're on the extreme right hand side. We're in the orange, right? So we're in the slow track, and we've got Surrey on the left hand side, which is in the like super fast track for special reasons around Surrey, and then the middle track is the priority program. So Surrey is super fast. Sussex, in terms of our neck of the woods, Sussex and Essex, our neighbours, are in the middle, and then we're bringing up the rear with the rest of the country. So we think that the consultation will end. The government will let us know what that geographical arrangement is. We think that it will probably be in the summer. It may be just before the summer recess, and that will really sound the firing gun for us all to start. We will have a shed load of work to do then. We'll have to form these joint committees in terms of what the future looks like for the new unitaries, and they will pass secretary legislation that will do several things. The first thing is they will postpone the district, or they will postpone the district elections, effectively cancelling the elections, and extend us by 1 year, so that the elections in May 27 will be for the unitaries. So the unitaries will be elected in May 27, but they will remain in the shadow for the first year, because they've got to get set up. Everything has to move across to the unitaries. All of the staff, all of the functions, all of the assets. So that is going to be one flipping busy year. Now, just to understand this, the way I sort of been explaining this is that the unitaries will be responsible for policy and looking forward, and during that year, the district councils will be doing the functionality. We'll be collecting the bins, we'll be making planning decisions, we'll be housing people, we'll be doing the stuff that we normally do. But that's going to be a hectic time. We do have the advantage of seeing what's happening to Surrey first, and then seeing what's happening to Essex and Sussex, because it probably gives us a good indication of what's going to happen to us. We are very, very, very much lobbying the government that we should have devolution sooner rather than later. And the reason is because the whole thing doesn't really work unless you've got devolution. Things like highways, we can't, if you have 3 or 4 or 5 unitaries, we can't all deal with highways. Highways, link us all, and there's loads of other examples in that. But you can have a good look at that slide and see where we are on that. Next slide, please, Alex. Oh, is that it? Oh, good. Right. Okay, we're done. Hey, give everyone a breather. I let me put it up like that. I have to go to Hythe Town Council's my parish meeting. So fortunately, we've got some experts on the call. Councillor Prater is a walking, talking expert on local government reorganisation. Councillor Mike Blakemore will certainly be able to talk about the community and impact of LGR on the community. And of course, we've got the wonderful Alan Mitchell, who will be able to answer in a lot more detail than I possibly could any questions that you've got about finance and how this is all going to get funded and how we're going to get our money back, etc., etc. So I'll finish there if that's okay, and I'll have to say goodbye. And if you could direct your questions to Councillor Prater, Councillor Blakemore, or Alan Mitchell, please.
Great, many thanks, Jim. Please do give my apologies to the Hythe Town Council meeting that I am not going to be in 3 minutes' time.
Will do. Okay then, Tim. Thank you. Bye now.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay.
Bye, everyone. Bye now.
Cheers, Jim. And I'd just like to say that I'm much more interesting than just being an expert in local government reorganisation. I'm also good at parties. Thank you, Jim, for that.
Oh.
See you later.
Yep. Bye now.
That's the position as it is, following the council meeting and cabinet meeting last night, which agreed what the district council would make as our submission from our district. Broadly open the floor to any questions and comments. I think it is fair to say that in terms of detailed finance questions and detailed questions on how this is going to play out financially for the district, or indeed any unitary authority going forward, I think Alan would reasonably say that we don't know. There is not enough detail in the government proposals to give you any clear steer on that whatsoever, and indeed all of the numbers and times which were on those slides treat them as an indication of preference rather than thinking any of those numbers in terms of payback period, etc., or saving is actually real. Just imagining them as a ranking process as opposed to that any of those numbers are accurate in any way, because they are all guesses.
I completely agree with that, Tim. Very well said. I know Jim was saying about I'll be an expert and provide lots of detail. The reality is where we currently are, and the purpose of the submission was really about looking at the various models as opposed to setting targets and realistic options in terms of how this can be funded. So that will be borne out as part of the process, but very much early stage. So as you quite rightly said, at the moment, it's just estimates at the moment.
Are there any questions on this section from anyone? Paul, I've got a hand from Frank, so we'll start there.
Thank you, Tim. Is it a worry to the district that we've gone for 3A and the other ones that are likely to be in 3A have all gone for a different one? Or look like they're going for a different one?
I can only give the answer from our point of view is no, because the government are going to decide anyway. It makes terrifyingly little difference what our preferences are. The government has a set of criteria. From my reading of the criteria, I would say that only one of them, one of the options, and that is 3A, broadly hits most of the criteria that they want, including that they'd given the 500,000 people per unitary number. People had questioned throughout whether that was a flaw. or a median or a ceiling. They'd tried to say it's a floor. They'd said throughout it should be bigger than 500,000 unless you can give a reason otherwise. And I think with Surrey, they have made it clear that they mean it has to be bigger than 500,000. And if you're going to have areas which are bigger than 500,000, only option 3A has all of them bigger than 500,000. But it is perfectly reasonable for everybody to express a preference. It is perfectly reasonable for every district to do so. So, for instance, option 4D, which cuts Folkestone and Hythe district in 2 bits, might be attractive to other people and is much less attractive to us for the reason that it cuts Folkestone and Hythe in 2 bits. But that is for other people to make a decision on. So we will come back together at the end of this process when the minister has made a decision, and we will all then have to do whichever one is picked. We will all have to get on with it.
It's very likely the government will go bigger rather than smaller, though, isn't it? In Surrey, the strong preference was for 3 unitaries, preference of the councils and of the public in the consultation, and the government went for 2 in spite of that. So very likely, given the choice between 4 and 3, they'll go for 3.
And both of those two are between 550,000 and 650,000 people, which is pretty much exactly the range of 3A as well. The largest one there is 670,000 people, so only 20,000 bigger than the largest one that they've already just approved in Surrey. Peter, I can see your hand.
Interestingly, I saw last night a matrix which showed that KPMG originally thought that the 500 bit was going to be the weakest part of 3A. It was the implication was that it was the only bit that didn't sort of meet 500. So obviously the interpretation originally was that 500 was going to be the level rather than the base.
I'd be interested in how KPMG came to that decision, because I've been pretty clear in my own mind throughout the process that they meant 500k as a floor, because they said so originally. I think KPMG tried to interpret it in. That's what they're there for, is to come up with a range of interpretations and put expert advice. I think if they'd tried to make the case that 500,000 was a problem for 3A, they were doing it wrong. But
well, I have to say they quite clearly came out in favour of 3A. When you looked at the, it was black for everything except for the 500 bit. That was the odd thing about it.
In terms of democracy, that is a reasoned question. The other options had more councillors. So it is a balance of those things. That is the redness of it, is that if you've got 4 or 5 unitaries, you have more councillors and more representation. If you've got 3, you've got less representation, but it's a balance of that against the finances and how it works.
Can I assume we are going to get copies of these slides?
I'm very hopeful that Alex can make sure that
yes, we can circulate those to you. Not a problem.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much.
Any further questions on this section of the agenda?
Yeah.
As I'm going to take the shaking of heads, no one leaping up and down, we will go on. Thank you very much for that. In that case, we will go on to item 5. The draft budget. I'm looking forward to this immensely. The draft budget, I believe we mean the district council budget for 26-27, and I don't know whether it's going to be Jonathan or Alan who are guiding us through this.
It's Jonathan. He's got the pleasure of it tonight, and we've got some slides as well, which I think hopefully Jake can share.
Thanks.
Okay, bear with me. I'm going to see if I can share it myself. If you just bear with me one moment, I sort out the technical. Please do let me know if it is showing on your side.
That's showing.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you, members. So this is just a sort of a very brief overview, and just in terms of the district, the budget, just some challenges and the like. I've got an agenda here. So we've got 4 items on the agenda. One obviously is the challenges we have for 2026-27. So consultations, just dealing with a number of the sort of major consultations that are happening sort of across the spectrum, actually, at both the upper and lower tier levels, and just a very, very brief summary on that. The budget timetable, that is very sort of relevant to sort of towns and parish councils, because obviously this is just some of the key deadlines that we'd be working to, that obviously feeds into the wider district budget as the billing authority, and then just in reporting your precepts for your various sort of towns and parish councils. So I'll move straight into the slides. Just again, highlighting the challenges of 2026-27. So Folkestone and Hythe District Council, we set our budget strategy on the 15th of October at Cabinet, which contains sort of high-level assumptions about the district's budget and sort of the challenges that we face. So we've set down our assumptions around sort of our revenue funding, capital funding, sort of uncertainties where, for example, central government's funding arrangements are uncertain. That sort of links into the items that I've got listed there, sort of on the consultations, the fair funding review, and the business rates reset. Because obviously, certainly the district council, we sort of receive business rates income and sort of other government grants, and there's a whole. The whole point of the fair funding review is to effectively redistribute resources nationally in a more fair way. So that's the consultation closed earlier this year, and the outcome actually was just released today. Certainly the policy statement around the outcome of that was released today by central government this afternoon, and obviously we're working through the details of that and the implications of that. Naturally, cost of living remains a challenge. Inflation, whilst it has dropped ever so slightly from the prior levels, so certainly from last month's levels, certainly on the CPI index, consumer price index, it doesn't mean that prices are falling. Obviously, prices are still rising, but just rising more slowly. And so there's cost of living pressures and that obviously impacts our ability to collect council tax and collect business rates, because obviously it impacts both businesses and taxpayers. We obviously experience higher interest rates, so in terms of any of the projects that we're working on and the like, if we're doing any borrowing that's in relation to those, naturally we're impacted by the higher rates of interest on any borrowing that we do from, say, central government or from other local authorities. Again, I've mentioned sort of inflation, high cost of construction and labour. It affects sort of a number of our operations, and then I won't go over the entire slides that the leader of the district just talked to before, but obviously local government reorganisation is another key. So it's something that's happening further down the line, not necessarily an immediate challenge, but it will create a resourcing challenge in 26-27, even if it's just sort of officer time and the like. Briefly touched on then the consultations. So obviously the government did release, as I said today, just this afternoon, the outcome of the fair funding review policy consultation, which sets the high-level assumptions and the high-level sort of framework with which sort of fair funding will be sort of effectively implemented. We won't know the full impact for districts, certainly until we get the provisional local government finance settlement, which is expected in December, sometime usually in the week before Christmas, is when we sort of receive our update on what does this mean in terms of the numbers and the grant funding to the district. And obviously we've touched on as well the business rates reset, because we have a number of we have a large portion of our income comes from business rates. We have council tax income and business rates. The split is probably 2/3 or so weighted towards council tax, and about a third roughly weighted towards business rates, there or thereabouts. And with business rates reset, the government sets a baseline level of funding for us, and anything above that baseline level that you earn is deemed as growth, where you've done well. But the business rates reset, it's looking to reset us back to effectively the baseline and removing the growth element of the funding. Now, again, the government did also publish some detail today on the business rates reset, and we're still working through the implications of that. In terms of certainly from your perspective, the budget timetable, some of the key items, one key thing that we work on and provide to the towns and parishes is obviously the council tax base. obviously, naturally, you'll be using the tax base and understanding what's your Band D equivalent in your areas to help set your budgets. We can only work on this from the 1st of December, so we take basically some data. The data is collected as at the 1st of December, and we'll put together do some calculations and work out the council tax base that we're hoping to distribute to you all on the 8th of December this year. Roughly in line with the timing we sort of distributed those last year. We're planning to actually we've got some communications ready, and we're going to send out a letter tomorrow to the town and parish precept contacts that we have. And obviously, thank you for all your submissions last year, where you updated any sort of contact details. So we'll be sending out those comms tomorrow. So there'll be a letter coming out tomorrow to you. And obviously, the key deadline or is listed on the slide at the bottom there, the 9th of January 2026 for the return of the precept demands. Do recognise, obviously, that's the window is around about a month in which to sort of hold your meetings and sort of determine those precepts. But the reason being is obviously that this feeds into the district council's budget setting, which we have to set in February, and so that's why we ask for these earlier deadlines for the receipt of the precepts, because obviously we build that into our overall budget, which has to be set by our cabinet and then full council in February. There's an overall budget timetable here, which sort of gives you sort of an idea about this is the district and includes some of the parish details. And as I mentioned there, there's the 8th of December where we're sending the draft tax base to town and parish councils. And there's the 9th of January, again, for the deadline as a receipt for the parish precepts. So those are sort of listed on there, and you can see that there's various sort of stages that we have to go through. And actually, the earliest point at which we will present effectively the draft budget is actually on the 3rd of February, which goes through our finance and performance scrutiny subcommittee. So these are the deadlines that we have to work to, and that's the first committee meeting at which the draft budget will be considered from a district council side, hence the earlier deadline for the town and parish council precepts. Again, it's similar to last year. Reporting a precept, we obviously created quite a streamlined form, which we hope sort of assisted with your returns, just to make it easier. Obviously, again, we'll have your precept demands for the prior year. So, for example, at the moment, I'm just showing some details in terms of Sandgate. So, every town and parish council is listed in the drop downs, so you can select your town and parish. It'll give you your last year's figures and this year's figures, and also do some calculations to show you what that means in terms of percentage rise. So again, there's no statutory limit on town and parish council precept increases, unlike districts and sort of the upper tier as well. There's no limit, but it does flag, this form does flag if it goes over 5%, and it's just a notification to you, just to sort of guide you in terms of that's a level that certainly at the county level, that's a limit for them. Ours is 3% or 2.99%, but that's where we put that flag in place, just to sort of mirror similar to the rest of the tiers what we work to. But yes, the form will be coming out with the communications on the 8th of December, along with the draft tax base. It'll be the sort of the draft base should be built into the calculator. So again, you should just be able to type in your numbers and it will do the calculations for you. So hopefully that will assist again this year and ensure that we've got consistency of the responses as well. And I think the feedback we've generally had from towns and parishes is that they found it quite useful last year, having this form to complete, and so obviously we're continuing it for this year. That was all I had specifically to sort of cover today, but obviously happy to take any questions on that.
That's great, thank you, Jonathan. If you could drop that slide for us, that would be awesome, because then I can see people's hands going up. From my personal point of view, I've got the chair of my finance committee on the meeting as well, so I hope I'm not talking out of term. I find that calculator spreadsheet massively useful. It was an innovation we came up with 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. And has made it as a step change in terms of how we did that and putting the numbers in. So thank you for agreeing that that's going to go out again this year. And aside from that, I'd say that having looked through the details of the fair funding review, I think from Folkestone and Hythe's point of view, I'm going to cross the word fair out from now on. It has been a funding review and I don't like it. So any questions on a either technical or policy level for Jonathan, Alan, or myself on the budget process or timetable for this year? You stunned them into silence, Jonathan. Oh no, you're not stunned, Frank. He can move. Go for it.
Yeah, thank you. Just one thing, there was an announcement quite recently that the government plans to do away with police and crime commissioners. Is that something that is going to be factored in to the local government finance proposals for this year, or is it too far in the future?
So no, if I can answer that. Sorry. Tim, you can answer if you like.
They're being abolished from the next point of election, which was May 2028. I'm going to give that as it's outside of the scope of this budget year, I'm afraid. Yeah. It will broadly become a unitary authorities problem. Aside from that, no questions in terms of impact on parishes and timetables. Thank you. If people can,
copies again would be useful, please. Copies again would be useful, please.
Yeah, I'll get those sent round for you.
Thank you.
I should have said at the beginning of this, congratulations to Alex, who has already sent round the slides of the last item during the course of this item.
No problem.
So there's several brownie points on that one.
I'll get some more in a minute and send you the others.
Oh. I don't know what you do with double brownie points, but I'll find a way.
Like any double brownie, you eat them quicker.
Saying nothing. Okay. If there are no further questions, thank you very much, and well done, Jonathan. You got us off that in one easy go. And we can now go away and enjoy that timetable through to the end of February. Grand, thank you very much. Unless you have a particular desire to remain on this call, Jonathan, Alan, run for your lives.
Thank you very much. Have a good rest of the meeting.
Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye, guys.
Bye.
And that therefore moves us to item 6, the tenant survey results of the Folkestone and Hythe Council housing survey. And there to bring us through this is Andy Bleskovich. Hello, Andy.
No, it's me, Councillor Prater.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I take it that, and it's just here to watch and look. He turned his camera on.
And assist if required. But Michael is very capable, so probably doesn't even need me, to be fair.
Okay, that's great. It's Andy turning his camera on in order to prove that he was still in the room distracted me, so it's all good. Thank you, Mike. In that case, the floor's yours.
Thank you very much. Alex, are you able to share my slides, please? It's telling me that the host has disabled screen sharing for me.
Oh, if I make you a co-host, will you be able to share them then? Would that be okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
That should be updated for you now.
Let's have a go. Oh, there we go. Sorry, bear with me. I'm not used to Zoom.
To be there in March 2020.
Tell me if you can see my screen.
That's perfect.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, so this is the results of this year's tenant satisfaction survey. In 2023, the regulator of social housing introduced some new consumer standards, which they require all social landlords to comply with. And one of the requirements is for us to carry out an annual tenant satisfaction measures survey. I'll call them TSMs for brevity in future. So they ask specific questions, and the regulator of social housing prescribes those questions. We're not allowed to change the wording. We are allowed to include extra questions, And we include free text boxes in our survey so that we can understand why people are or aren't happy with the service we provide, to help us understand why and to analyse the data in more detail. So we commissioned an external provider to deliver the survey for us, and we sent the survey by post to all of our tenants in the week of the 2nd of June, and they get the option to reply online or by the postal version. The survey closed on the 28th of July. The regulator has a minimum number of responses that they require each landlord to get, and the minimum for Folkestone and Hythe is 514. We got 692, which is a really good response rate. And to make sure that the results were as representative as possible of the wider tenant population, the contractor in-house topped up the postal and online responses with some telephone surveys to make sure they were representative of people's age, property type, property designation, i.e. whether it's general needs or independent living, and how old the property was. And I'm really, really pleased to say that this year satisfaction increased across all 12 of the TSMs that we need to ask about, and I'll talk you through that a bit more now. This slide is a little bit hard to read possibly on screen, I'm afraid, but I'm sure Alex will share them with you all. The big numbers, the percentages, are the scores this year, and the numbers underneath with the plus or minus and the arrows are last year's scores. So we've increased on all 12 measures, and the biggest increases we saw this year were around the timeliness of repairs, TPO3, which increased by 10%, maintenance of homes, which went up by 10.5%, and how well we keep tenants informed, TPO7, which went up by 10.5%. The two that probably stand out to you the most on the screen there are TPO9 and TP12, because they've got the big red boxes around them. TPO9, complaint handling, and TP12, antisocial behaviour, they always are the lowest scoring measures. And although our scores for those two compare low when compared to the other ones, they are very consistent with other social landlords, and they are a big improvement on our scores from the previous year. As you can see, one's up 9%, one's up 6%. I'll talk about the detail behind those two in a little while, but I would add that we've worked through the comments in the free text boxes to understand why people feel the way they do and identify themes and trends. We look at satisfaction by age. There's a common theme. Younger tenants generally appear less satisfied. That suggests that we do need to try and improve our engagement and the way we engage younger tenants with our services. The age group 25 to 34, neither satisfied nor dissatisfied, shows the highest proportion across all of the measures, and that shows that they generally don't have a view one way or another. When we look at satisfaction by type of property, whether they live in general needs or independent living, generally, and this is common, generally independent living tenants always report higher levels of satisfaction. We believe that that is because they generally have a closer relationship with the people at the council that manage the building they live in, and they receive a higher level of service usually because they get extra services that people in our general needs properties don't receive. So that explains that to a certain extent. Affordable rent show the lowest satisfaction in terms of cleanliness and well maintained, TPO9. So we are looking to try and understand that in a bit more detail, although the caveat to that would be that we have very few affordable rent properties compared to general needs, independent living or age designated. So this table gives you a bit of a breakdown in terms of which areas of the district are more or less satisfied than others. Cheriton and Hythe both show that they are generally more satisfied than the other areas. That could well be because their properties are better maintained and to a better standard, but we don't believe that to be the case. It's important to remember this is a perception survey. Folkestone Central is generally the most satisfied with repairs, as you can see there, TPO2 84.2%. Overall, the lowest levels of satisfaction are reported on Folkestone East and Bromley Marsh, and that isn't uncommon. We've seen that over the course of a few years, and I think it's linked to a general sense, certainly looking through the comments, that tenants on the Marsh feel more left out, and they feel that all of our money goes generally to Folkestone and Hythe, and the Marsh feels sort of left behind. In terms of the key themes we've identified, the biggest drivers of satisfaction are repairs and communication. And that has been the case across the housing sector, not just with ourselves, but across the housing sector in general for many, many, many years. So around repairs and maintenance, the most frequently mentioned comments were the length of time taken to complete repairs and the number of missed appointments. I would stress that that's based on, as I say, tenant perception. It isn't reflected on our performance figures. In the year that the survey was carried out, we completed 96% of repairs within the target time, and only 400 repairs out of over 8,500 had missed appointments. So I think one of the recommendations there that we're going to take away will be to enhance tenant awareness of the target timescales for completing repairs. When it comes to communication, as I say, complaints is one of the biggest ones. And we've seen this over the last 2 or 3 years now. Tenants don't seem to understand the meaning of the word complaint. The wording, as I said earlier, of the question is prescribed by the regulator of social housing. So we have to ask tenants, have you made a complaint to the housing team in the last 12 months? And then if they say yes to that question, they're asked how satisfied they are with the way we handled that complaint. But we had 165 people who said that they've made a complaint, and we only received 55 complaints in that year. And 96% of those were responded to within the target time. And having gone through the comments, it's very evident that when a tenant contacts us about antisocial behaviour or reporting a repair, they think they are making a complaint, which isn't the case, because we would treat that as part of our usual business. That is a request for us to help them. It isn't a complaint. So we tried to do some comms last year around this, and we need to continue to do this to raise awareness of what is or what isn't a complaint. In terms of what happens next, I'm taking the results to Overview and Scrutiny Committee next week, and we are going to be working with the Strategic Tenant Advisory Panel, or staff as we call them, to develop an action plan based on the findings from the survey, and that will be published in the tenant newsletter in January. And then we will monitor it on an ongoing basis to make sure that the actions that have been identified are going to be delivered. Very much for listening. I'm very happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Mike. Again, thank you for dropping that screen so I can see everybody. Are there any questions for Mike or indeed Andy?
It's good that it's been positive against last year.
Yeah, I think the trend looks very much in the direction. I'll ask a quick one then, Mike, just to give you something to work on. You mentioned that the perception point, the perception of tenants was more on Romney Marsh and in East Folkestone, that maybe they weren't getting the same service as was happening elsewhere in the district. Are there any is there any evidence or figures to either support or not support that perception?
No, definitely not. Having read through the comments, it's very much down to perception. I think we've heard this many times, haven't we? It's a general feeling from tenants on the Marsh that they feel left out there. They receive the completely same consistent level of service as we provide to every other tenant in the district.
And we can see that in terms of service times for fixing complaints, in terms of the amount of money invested per unit in those areas as opposed to across the rest of the district. The same metrics apply, and there isn't a metric there which gives any back out to that, is there?
you say, this is the problem with a perception survey, isn't it? It is based on individuals' views. But we will obviously do some more targeted work down on the marsh to understand why people feel the way they do. But yeah, it's consistent with previous years. It's not telling us anything we didn't already know.
Maybe Mike and I should make the point that through the Cheriton and Sandgate housing area, maybe that high level of satisfaction is around their district councillors as well. But yeah, just saying.
Absolutely. Having the portfolio holder in one of those wards is quite good.
Saying now. Are there any other further questions on this item? Your comment? I'm taking that as a no. In that case, thank you very much indeed, Mike, and thank you, Andy, for lurking. Although you look less lurky there than Jim did earlier. Mount Street car park looked quite haunted.
At least we had better contact with him than we did when he was on the tunnel last time.
Yes.
Say nothing. And before somebody asks whether we can circulate those slides, they were already with your agenda pack and you will have seen them already. So
I've just sent them around again with the budget slides. So you've got them again.
Everyone has all of the slides that you could possibly need.
Yeah.
Grant, in that case, as that was the last item on our agenda, I think. Needs to check because they went to the bottom of those slides. Yeah, that's the last item on the agenda. So thank you very much indeed for your time. Good to see you all. And I can't recall when the next of these meetings is on our agenda, but I'm sure I will meet
January.
Yeah.
22nd of January.
In that case, look forward to seeing the 22nd of January. Happy budget setting. Look forward to the 8th of December, Precept Day, with as much joy as we always do. And we'll see you on the other side of Christmas and New Year.
In between those two dates, have a good Christmas.
Yeah.